Good evening, everyone, Lynx sisters and friends. We are excited to host this green table talk for this evening, April 19th. Our topic for this evening is related to renewable technologies. The Eastern Area Services to Youth Science, Technology, and Engineering Committee of the Lynx Incorporated, the STEM Committee, will host this webinar. The topic is preparing our youth for leadership in the green economy. It is a roundtable discussion with TERRA Renewable Technologies. And during this webinar, the STEM Initiative Committee will host this amazing and phenomenal panel with our Eastern Area partner, TERRA Renewable Technologies, and this new green economy is what we will discuss. We will talk about how we are going to prepare our students to have a seat at the table in this new world that we live in. Yes, indeed, it is a new paradigm. We will follow, after you hear from our dynamic panelists, we will have a 10-minute Q&A session immediately following the presentations from our panelists. So again, we are excited that you, Eastern Area STY chairs and STEM liaisons and friends are joining us this evening. At this time, we will have a welcome from our amazing Link, Shawana Tucker Sims, the Eastern Area Director.
Thank you so much, Cherie, and good evening. It is truly my privilege to bring greetings on behalf of the officers leadership team and over 4,600 members of the Eastern Area of the Lynx. I thank you all for joining us for this very important conversation. We know that in this 21st century and beyond, STEM or science, technology, engineering, and math skills and understanding will be more critical than ever. While much attention is focused on how technology is increasingly integrated into all that we do, we cannot lose sight of the fact that if we do not become better stewards of our environment life, as we know it will be altered for all. This evening's conversation gets to the heart of what matters most, equipping our next generation to nurture our environment and learn how to flourish through a green economy. We're delighted to partner with TERRA Renewable Technologies to help us all be more informed advocates. The global renewable energy market is expected to reach 1.5 billion by 2025, and it is increasing due to rising stringent government regulations regarding climate change. Unfortunately, Black women and men are woefully underrepresented at all levels of the renewable energies industry. Through tonight's webinar, we will learn how we can expose the youth we serve to this swiftly growing area and the vast career opportunities available to them in the global renewable energy market. Thank you, TERRA and Eastern Area STEM Committee, for assembling an impressive panel of experts to increase our awareness and understanding of the renewable energy landscape and the opportunities that it presents for better living in our communities and careers for our children. As is our tradition of leading the way, we are especially proud of Sandy Britt, President and CEO of TERRA, who is a member of the Eastern Area Lynx, Patuxent River chapter. I also want to thank our Eastern Area Services to Youth Facet Co-Chair, Dr. Yvonne Brandon, our STEM Initiative Committee, chaired by Stacy Mangum and co-chaired by Cherie Amato, for putting this program together. Kudos to all for your diligence in keeping STEM at the forefront in the East, and to the Eastern Area Program Chair, Anna Maria Bishop Harris. Thank you for providing innovative programs, and I now turn the mic over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Director. You truly do lead the way with excellence and grace, and we are all so very proud of you. Let's talk about the way Mother Earth is actually speaking to us in every way and language that she possibly can. She's speaking to us through erratic weather. She's speaking to us through diseases that we've never seen before. She's talking and she demands a change. So let's talk about how we can bring that change about. And I must tell you, ladies, and I'm sure there's some gentlemen out there, we do not have a whole lot of time. Time is not on our side. We need to talk about how we engage elementary school students, because we start them young. They are open, they are wise beyond their years, and believe me, with 5 godchildren, I can tell you they get it. We start out with elementary school, we go to middle school, we go to high school, and then we go to college. This area has raised, I'm proud to say, over $300,000 for HBCUs. How do we get that population engaged? It's imperative that we find out so that they can have a part and a piece of this economy, this green energy economy. Imperative. I'll say the word again because that is exactly what it is. What can each of us do as individuals, as Lynx, as the leaders, to make certain that we are doing the best we can to honor Mother Earth? Earth Day is approaching. I believe it's in about 3 days. So let's be cognizant of the facts. The facts are all around us. And you are going to hear from one of the most dynamic panels that I've ever seen compiled. Please listen. I want you to enjoy. I want you to learn. And again, I want you to think about our young people. Think about ways that we can really engage them and make it fun. Because saving this planet is fun, but it's work that we must do, and we must start immediately, if not soon. Thank you very much. And again, congratulations to Stacy and to Cherie, who always present the very best. Thank you to our panel. Everyone, please listen with your heart and with your mind. Thank you.
And now we will be greeted by our Eastern Area Services to Youth Bassett Chair, Dr. Yvonne Brandon.
Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here tonight and to serve as the new Eastern Area Services to Youth Bassett Chair. I am a scientist by trade before I became an educator. So understanding what we all can do to contribute to saving planet Earth is very important to me. It is not just the responsibility of one group or one segment of our population. It is our entire population's responsibility. And therefore, I am so pleased that our Services to Youth STEM program has engaged with TERRA in order to discuss how we can use and reuse products in order to conserve energy and conserve our planet. Stacy and Cherie, you've done a wonderful job. Thank you so much. And greetings to our area director, Dr. Shawana Tucker-Sims, as well as our program director, Anna Maria Bishop Harris. Thank you for joining us and thank you for being a part of this. Our panelists are experts in all areas, and I know that we will learn a lot. So I ask all of us to sit back, listen, and learn, and use what we learned tonight, to implement our ways of saving the Earth. Thank you so much.
I'm back and good evening again. And again, TERRA, Solar, Wind, Hydro, Renewable Technologies, has an amazing team, and it is my honor to introduce them. And TERRA really focuses on finding solutions within the renewable energies industry. And tonight they will talk to us about why it's critical that we prepare our youth for leadership and prosperity in the emerging green economy. It is my delight to introduce to you first the President and CEO of TERRA, Sandra A.M. Britt Esquire, who serves as the principal leader in the implementation and management of TERRA's renewable energy programs and initiatives nationwide. She provides executive level leadership to a team of highly experienced industry leaders and consultants in the formation of objectives and priorities to successfully promote clean energy generation and efficiency within the collaboration of key partners, stakeholders, and public interest. Next, we have Jose A. Menendez, who is the president of Princeton Energy Resources International, known as PERI, where he leads multi-million-dollar renewable energies ventures nationally and internationally, developing and implementing solar, wind, hydroelectric, and geothermal power projects that transforms our communities, states, and countries. Perry's corporate experience includes energy sector projects in countries such as the United States, Russia, Belize, Turkey, Nigeria, Venezuela, Colombia, China, and Sierra Leone, just to name a few. Next, we have Dr. Matthew Croston, who is an acclaimed author and educator who consults with governments and academic institutions on a range of issues covering education, innovation, intelligence, and cyber resource dilemmas, and human rights conflicts. He is a leading curriculum and instructional designer, having developed and launched numerous programs at the bachelor's, master's, and doctoral levels. Dr. Croston has published top-tier research that has made required reading lists at US Stratcom, Cybercom, the Army, and the Naval War Colleges, Mossad, the US Department of State, the Ministry of State Security in China, and the Russia Ministry of Foreign Affairs. At Bowie State University, Dr. Croston serves as the institution's first Director of Academic Transformation. And next, we have Dr. Lorenz Lee Evans, who received his BA and Master's in Economics and his PhD in Macroeconomics and International Economics Econometrics. He is a presenter and author of various publications and federal reports dealing with a plethora of financial subjects, including but not limited to economics, cybersecurity, banking, and wealth. Dr. Evans has been recognized for his novel analytic approaches and rigorous economic analysis and groundbreaking work that has helped broaden Congress's understanding of major policy challenges. And next, we have Dr. Pamela E. Queen. With a BS in mathematics from Tuskegee University, an MS in computer science, and an MS in technology management from the Johns Hopkins University Whiting School of Engineering, and a PhD in finance from George Washington University, Dr. Queen is an innovative finance professor at Morgan State University's teaching core business courses for undergraduate and MBA students. She also serves as a delegate to the Maryland General Assembly, representing Maryland's 14th legislative district in northern Montgomery County. Next, we have Stacy G. Mangham, who began her career at the Lockheed Martin family of companies as a systems engineer responsible for testing naval weapon systems. Now, at Meteor Corporation as a group leader in the Systems Engineering Innovation Center, Ms. Mangham has served as the project leader for the Joint Interoperability Program Office for the Department of Defense and the Veterans Administration, who established to ensure interoperability for electronic healthcare records shared between the two agencies. Next, we have Nicole Kerrigan Esquire. She is the manager of commercial transactions at First Solar, Inc., and she is the global employee network leader for Blacks in Renewables, which is an affinity group at First Solar. She is positioned to directly collaborate with internal and external networks to influence career opportunities for Black men and women in the renewable energy sector, specifically solar photovoltaic module manufacturing. Ms. Kerrigan endeavors to define, shape, and establish an inclusive culture and supporting and creating job-ready talent pipelines for future candidates at First Solar, Inc. And next we have Dr. Norman Powell, ED. He is a board member of the Kentucky River Keepers, a group that focuses on environmental education, research, litigation, and advocacy, emphasizing the connection between healthy rivers and healthy communities. Dr. Powell's support of environmentally healthy communities is undergirded by his professional focus on the development, health, education, and equal access to educational opportunities of children from disadvantaged communities. He is Professor Emeritus in the College of Education at Eastern Kentucky University. His many speaking engagements include, but are not limited to, keynote speaker for the annual National Conference of the South African Association of Child and Youth Care Workers. And he represents the United States at the 9th International Colloquium of the European Economic Union in Barcelona, Spain. Lisa Pina is a seasoned early childhood education leader with comprehensive experience in the curriculum development and programming arenas. As the founder and director of the Jamon Montessori Day School, the only African-American owned Montessori school in the Washington, D.C. capital region, one of her responsibilities includes operating the institution's summer enrichment program that focuses on STEM, language immersion, and the arts. Ms. Pina has traveled abroad to provide consulting, teaching workshops, and training to the staff of the Academy of Human Development in Ghana, West Africa, and she has also served as an early childhood accreditation specialist for the state of Maryland. So please welcome to all of our panelists for this evening. Thank you. And now we hear from Sandy Britt, Esquire, who will lead us in our discussion. So thank you.
Thank you for that introduction. Needless to say, TERRA is blessed to have all of this talent and knowledge working together to do our part in expanding the renewable energy sector in the United States. As was said, my name is Sandra Britt and I'm the CEO of TERRA. TERRA is a renewable energies company that, among other things, finds solutions for the renewable energies industry. Our team before you has over 40 years of experience in renewable energies and over 25 years of experience in cybersecurity, economics, finance, and policy. Our goals include reducing and/or reversing the effects of climate change so that future generations of life can continue to enjoy the earth. Doing our part in making the United States the world leader in renewable energy technologies, working to make the renewable energies industry the key component of the United States energy sector, and growing the renewable energies industry enterprise with the ideals of equality and inclusion. In addition to its Latin meaning earth, TERRA is an acronym that describes our approach to accomplishing our goals. Through technology, we assist higher educational institutions and historically disadvantaged communities in obtaining the renewable energies technologies needed to advance the institutions and communities' access to the green economy. Through education, we enhance educational opportunities at our partner institutions and in communities that inform and prepare students for the variety of careers within the enterprise of the green economy and renewable energy sector. Through research, we assist institutions in advancing their capabilities to conduct research and produce innovators that will help develop and advance the green economy. Through resources, we assist our partner institutions and communities in getting the financial resources needed to accomplish their renewable energy and/or green economy goals. And through advocacy, we advocate for our partner institutions and communities at the federal, state, and local levels to ensure that they have access to the funding needed to advance their environmental justice, green economic, and renewable energy goals, and to ensure that they have a voice in shaping policy in these areas. In our country today, women and men of color are underrepresented at all levels in industries critical to the inevitable green economy. This is especially true in the renewable energy sector, which is essential to fostering global growth without compromising the viability of future generations. This lack of inclusion is particularly problematic because minority communities are the most disproportionately affected by the negative impacts of climate change, including negative health and environmental impacts. For example, a recent EPA report found that Black people are 40% more likely than other groups to live in places where extreme weather and environmental patterns will generate higher mortality rates. The causes for this underrepresentation and disproportionate impact include factors such as systemic racial and gender discrimination that require deliberate counteractions to overcome. To appreciate the potential costs associated with a less inclusive green economy, we need only consider the lack of representation in STEM fields and what that has meant for the evolution of technologies like artificial intelligence and facial recognition, and the risks that now require mitigation. Rather than allow similar risks to materialize, it is far better that we take steps now to ensure that communities of color are prepared to be a part of the renewable energy and other climate-friendly solutions that will dominate the landscape going forward. This can only be accomplished by increasing minority and Black participation in the green economy and other renewable energy workforces, such as wind, hydropower, and solar. Historically, Black colleges and universities can play a profound role in preparing our youth for representation at all levels in this enterprise by providing the necessary skills, knowledge, and exposure needed to tackle the environmental issues that plague our communities now. Nonprofit and grassroots organizations, such as the Eastern area of the Lynx Incorporated, sororities, fraternities, and other grassroots organizations, are also positioned to provide leadership and support in moving our populations seamlessly into the green economic future. And we're going to talk about the roles they can play a little later in this conversation. But understand that in order to do this, we must recognize the opportunities that are before us. We must acknowledge our current position in life. And we must make the necessary moves to secure our children's future at this precipitous crossroad in the renewable energies industry. At this time, I want to ask my colleague Jose if he can tell us a little bit about the renewable energies, or about what renewable energy technology is.
Sandra, thank you for that lead-in. My name is Jose Menendez, as they introduced me earlier. The best way to understand the renewable technologies we have is with our electric system or grid. It's really made up of three parts. You have generation, which is how you make the electricity, transmission, how you get the electricity to us, the consumer, and then the distribution system, which is that last mile on how the electricity gets into our homes and businesses. Now, whether it's fossil or renewable energy, the transmission and the distribution side remains more or less the same. It's renewable energy lives on the generation side, how you make the electricity. There's various types of renewable energy we're all familiar with. You have wind, such as you can see in the windmills behind me on my screen that generate electricity. You have solar, which can come either from the solar panels that we see all over the place now, that's becoming more common, and solar collectors, which are basically giant mirrors that take heat to make steam to do electricity. You have hydroelectric power, which can be from the traditional dams with a reservoir, ranging to newer run-of-the-river systems that have much less an impact on the ecosystem because you don't have to make the dams. You have geothermal energy, which is really not available in much of the country except for the West, using either hot water and steam systems from reservoirs underground or hot rock systems. Biomass, which is able to turn plant and animal waste into a variety of gases that can either be used in fuel cells or burned, combustion to get energy. Marine, which uses the power of the tides to generate electricity, and various forms of hydrogen technologies to make hydrogen in a variety of ways to make electricity. Another big way to differentiate all these systems there, and you can see it especially with solar, is whether you have some sort of central plant or it's distributed. By central plant, if you drive out to the Eastern Shore, you can see some of the solar farms that are out there, big fields with all these solar panels. That's like a power plant. Versus the distributed system, when you walk around the neighborhood and everybody has their individual panels on their houses. So we need people advancing this technology and advancing the renewable technologies. Now, most people that I've spoken to throughout my life get very uncomfortable because they say, I'm not one of those usual suspects of electrical or mechanical engineers that works on those systems. But we need all sorts of technical skills and backgrounds to advance these technologies. For an example, as we produce more, we need industrial engineers that can make our manufacturing processes better and more efficient. We need, as you make, for example, solar panels, in making them, there are a lot of byproducts that are not good for the environment. We need water treatment engineers that can design the treatment systems and run these systems in these plants. Even more so, there's people without technical backgrounds, experts, that are facilitating our technologies. Financial people in the financial fields came up with the insurance programs that allow wind projects to enter into these commercial contracts to sell power all the time. Policy experts are the ones that came up with community solar, which has opened up solar to many disadvantaged communities, especially communities of color. So once again, people ask, what can I do to participate in it? Well, everyone can. Everyone has a role to play. The other area where we need experts with renewable energy focuses more on the transmission distribution side. There's a little bit more variation with renewable energy. The sun doesn't always shine the same way because of clouds or time of year, or time of day. The wind doesn't always blow the same. So what you have is the amount of energy you have going into your grid, it rises and falls. And the one rule is whatever you put in has to come out. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So as you get that variation, we already have technology that's automated that works across all the plants to coordinate. But as we make more renewable energy, it's getting more complicated. We need more artificial intelligence, better programs, better computers to coordinate all this. This also leads to, we need to protect those systems from individuals that come out there. With that said, I think this is a very good lead into our next speaker, who's Matthew, who's very well equipped, much more so better than me to talk about this. Thank you.
Oh, I always hate these kinds of introductions that have such a large play in, high expectations. There's obviously I'm meant to discuss a little bit about cybersecurity and how it fits within renewable energies. To do that and still keep you within the 6 minutes, thank you, Sandra, is this sort of forces me to split it into two halves. The first half is security, which actually ends up making you have to discuss economics and politics. And then the second half, which is in some ways almost more important to me, especially in terms of what TERRA offers and is trying to accomplish for not just the United States, but for the world, quite literally, is the educational aspect of this fusion between two STEM fields. In terms of security, I think everyone instinctively just understands how important cybersecurity is for renewable energies. The fact of the matter is this emerging field and growing field is inevitably only going to just get bigger. This idea someone mentioned at the very beginning that it's 1.5 billion by 2025, that's actually only because of the lag in talent and the lag in innovation, the lag in people being engaged in this field. It therefore is only going to increase exponentially as we move forward with these types of efforts. So that's a fantastic field to get into, is one that based on your own success that you're creating and the own innovation that we're trying to inspire is only going to impact the field by making and helping it grow. And that leads to greater opportunity for everyone, but in particular for the community of color. There's obviously, in terms of politics and economics, these fuse together with cybersecurity within renewable energy, simply because we're in a dangerous place, if I can be completely honest with everyone. Most of the field is actually, because of the nature of what America is, God bless capitalism and all of that, is in private hands and is against regulation and against federal oversight. As a result, the idea is that the free market is always going to be the best entity to address any kind of flaws or any kinds of weaknesses that may exist in the systems. I would love to believe that. I want to believe in that, but the evidence shows us that private industry doesn't always necessarily sacrifice profit and sacrifice earnings in the immediate term in order to safeguard long-term security. So it's always going to be a field that's deeply intertwined with one another. As renewable energies grow in importance, the need for having talented individuals within cybersecurity to protect those interests are only going to become larger and more impactful. And I think a little bit with what piggybacking on what Jose had mentioned, cybersecurity sometimes I think gets a bad shake in terms of what does it mean to be a cybersecurity specialist. Well, I'm not a computer scientist, or I'm not a computer programmer. I don't know how to code, and I don't have any interest in coding. There's so many aspects as this field keeps growing and evolving that you can be in cybersecurity, but you really are not, hunkered down in the basement somewhere for 14 hours a day coding out things and fighting hackers from Russia and China. If that's what floats your boat, absolutely fabulous, and that will work, and those opportunities will be there. But cybersecurity is quickly evolving into diplomacy, into global affairs, into international relations, into international political economy, which is my upcoming segue. Hold on, Dr. Evans, when he talks about the economics aspect of this. It becomes crucial to just know that you can get in a field early that is only going to keep growing and keep enlarging, doubling, tripling every 10 years, basically. There aren't many opportunities like that when you think about it in terms of the fields that are available to our young students and our emerging talent pool. And that gets me into the educational aspect of my comments. The fact of the matter is, we all know STEM in general suffers in the United States. It's largely because students are often intimidated by it. This is in college, let alone K through 12. But we also have a really poor educational infrastructure across the board. But this has always been horrifically, and not through any fault of their own, but within, say, HBCUs, the ability to develop that infrastructure has always been limited and constrained by systemic factors that are not their fault. And so what I love about what we're trying to do is create a systemic answer to this problem to overcome it. And one of the most important things in education, we talk about this in general within higher education in America. One of the great criticisms of American higher education today is the fact that we have students coming into college who spend an incredible amount of money, racking up huge sums of debt, and end up with an undergraduate degree that will, in fact, usually not be connected to their job whatsoever. And so it makes us wonder, are we scamming people? Is this, what I love about what we're doing here is no one would ever be able to accuse us of that, because the path we're laying out, whether it's specifically within cybersecurity and how it connects to renewable energies, or renewable energies writ large across the spectrum, this type of education, students can see what that path is in front of them and how it's going to develop into an actual career field where they maximize the degree that they earned. And I just think that's incredibly rewarding to students. And quite frankly, it happens too little in today's America in terms of students graduating from college and getting jobs in the careers that they studied. This is one of those opportunities where, as I said, as the future emerges, as that evolution keeps going, those opportunities are only going to be more momentous. So that's one of the things I think we have to always push to all students, but also in particular students of color, is get into the fields where there's desperate need. And therefore you become instantly hyper competitive and hyper desired. And that's never a bad thing for your own social mobility, for your own future success, and for your own ability to take care of yourself and your family. And that ultimately, I think, is something that's a noble cause, and it's sort of an underlying social aspect of TERRA. So with that, I will pass the baton over to my colleague, Dr. Evans.
Great. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking briefly about the economics of renewable energy and provide some grounded foresight about labor markets and discuss why it's important to train and educate diverse students so they can fully participate in this green economy, or as I call it, the new economy. You might see different definitions of the green economy. It's often used synonymously with green energy economy, low carbon economic growth, green growth, whatever it is. But one of the most sophisticated and disciplined definitions comes from the World Bank. And I like it because it's simple, it's elegant, and it explains what we're really after. So it's economic growth that is efficient, clean, and resilient, right? It's efficient because it uses natural resources efficiently. It's clean in that it minimizes pollution, environmental impacts, and it's resilient because it accounts for natural disasters, right? So it's about reducing environmental risk, addressing the ecological scarcities, reducing the environmental impacts of economic activity. I say new economy because what we're really talking about is an energy transformation, right? Creative destruction, where the old ways are being decimated by the new, right? Renewables are the new. They are inevitable, as Sandy said, right? So you think about Kodak. Kodak had the digital camera technology. It shelved it so as not to cannibalize its existing product streams, right? This is that Kodak moment. This is a dump Blockbuster and buy Netflix moment, right? This clean energy new economy includes products, processes, services across a number of different sectors, right? From recycling to waste to energy, but to green building, energy efficiency, technology. But I want to focus on renewable energy. As someone recently pointed out to me, the evolution of civilization is partially a history of energy transitions, if you think about it, right? We transitioned from an agrarian society to water, solar-based societies to where we are today, which is economies dominated by fossil fuels, right? But here we are at the precipice of a major transition, right? Away from fossil fuels toward renewable sources. Underscores why I call it the new economy. Um, Number of economic factors are driving this transition, right? The first one that I think is often missed is the fact that fossil fuels are fixed in supply, right? All things equal, they will eventually lose out to renewable energy supplies that can be continually replenished through natural processes. So the only real question here is when, right? When? When will wind, solar, geothermal, hydropower, biomass dominate the landscape? The other factor is prices. And some of this is driven by technology, right? The prices of renewable energy continue to fall and become more and more competitive vis-a-vis fossil fuels, right? And technology is driving this to some degree. There are, of course, the concerns about the impact of the status quo on the environment, particularly climate change. And then critically important, as an economist, I have to bring this to you, the changing relationship between growth and resource stewardship. We used to think that sustainability meant lower growth, right? But now studies are showing that that is a false choice, right? The International Renewable Energy Agency estimates that doubling the share of renewables would boost global GDP by 1.1%, right? So that is significant, right? And then further fueling this transition, this was pointed out earlier, is that it's an international priority now. So many governments have prioritized renewable energy development, right? So I think 164 countries now have renewable energy targets as part of their energy plan, right? So what we see now is considerable investments in development in green technology and renewable and renewables. Okay, so the labor market implications are significant, right? The number of jobs in renewables and the environment has increased well over 200% over the last 5 years, right? Companies with energy efficiency operations anticipate a 10.1 job increase, according to a recent LinkedIn study, right? So it's there, right? And the critical point is that demand for green skills exceeds the supply, right? The World Economic Forum finds that the skill gaps will be pretty high leading up to 2025, right? As we see this transformation in labor markets. So the question is, who will fill them, right? Who will benefit and influence this new economic order? So we need Blacks, Latinos at the table. And Sandy pointed out that we have skin in the game because we're disproportionately affected by climate change. And there's significant problems to be solved. And it requires diverse, multidisciplinary thinking. Historically, we've seen good things go bad or not so good for certain demographics. So we don't want to be on the wrong end of this transformation. And Sandy talked a little bit about decision making, and that excludes communities or create risks for certain populations. But we don't want the program benefits to be distributed in a way that's not equal, right? So we want to be at the table, because if we're not at the table, we're probably on the menu. All right, so what do we need? Action now, right? HBCU should be pinpointing external change, detecting the patterns and putting their graduates on the offensive. They should be reskilling for the future, and we are pushing for stronger curricula that better positions future leaders to excel in the new economy. And I will turn it over to Pam now.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Dr. Evans. And so I want to kind of start to talk a little more about what does this mean to us from a state and local level. And so I'm going to talk specifically about Maryland, but a lot of this translates to other areas, especially on the Eastern area. So in Maryland, this has become a very opportune time to pursue renewable energy projects, especially solar projects. And the reason is that Maryland consumes 5 times more energy than it produces. And so there's a critical need to produce clean energy within the state. And solar energy happens to be the largest renewable energy footprint in our state, in Maryland, with 40% of Maryland's renewable electricity generation coming from solar, and wind at now about 20%. And so the state is working and helping to increase the level of renewable energy in the state through policy goals. One policy goal is to increase the energy production within our state, not buying RECs from other states local to us, building it within our state, capacity within our state. We also have policy goals that are targeting renewable portfolio standards, that we reach 50% of our retail electricity coming from renewables by 2030. And so we need to meet that goal. We also are incentivizing the creation of community solar projects. And this is especially in our low and moderate income communities. And so how are we helping to get this done, or how do we finance this sort of activity, these projects? This is done through what we call green banks. And green banks are nonprofits that leverage the public as well as philanthropic dollars to invest in renewable energy projects. They address the financial gaps for viable, low-risk public and private clean energy projects throughout our region. And in Montgomery County, where I'm from, we have a green bank. You can go learn about it and go to it to read about it. It's mcgreenbank.org. And it is a publicly chartered nonprofit corporation that's dedicated to accelerating affordable energy efficiency and clean energy investments in our county. And it helps Montgomery County achieve its climate goals by leveraging capital through innovative partnerships. And its goal is to make clean energy more accessible and affordable for all the residents and businesses in our county. So how do we make sure this policy is shaped to develop and provide and implement the things that we need to reach these policy goals? We have various advocacy groups that are very effective in influencing renewable energy policy, especially in our state of Maryland. We have the Sierra Club, the Maryland League of Conservation Voters, Chesapeake Climate Action Network, and they're some of the key drivers in making sure that the policy that we implement really are meeting our goals to get us at a clean energy target that is set for our state. So in summary, I just want to reiterate, this is the right time to engage and invest in renewable energy, especially in projects in the state of Maryland, and also all over the Eastern Shore, the Eastern Coast. Why? There is a need. There's a critical need to develop renewable energy within your given state. There are policy imperatives that are in place. We have a financial structure through our green banks, which are a good model for us to use. And you have these well-organized advocacy groups that are there to make sure these things get implemented and implemented correctly. And you have a supportive environment. So I just want to say the time is now, and we need to get on this bandwagon soon. So I'll pass it on to Stacy, who will talk more about the grassroots involvement and leadership, how we can get this done. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Mangum, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how grassroots organizations and volunteer organizations such as the Lynx Incorporated or the Eastern area of the Lynx Incorporated can get involved in this new green economy. Well, the first thing is that we are willing parties. We have come together because of our common interests in order to achieve civic, economic, social, and cultural rights for those that we serve. And so with that in mind, we are close to the community. And because we are close to the community, we have influence and we also have relationship with community. And as a result, that is our superpower. Our superpower enables us to go out to the community and create an environment that's rich enough for this new economy to grow, for our people to become involved in the new economy. We are intimately involved and connected with those who are affected most by climate change through health issues, as well as our geography. As a result, as additional to that, we are also disproportionately closed out of the green economy. So therefore, we have to do our part to help change that. So how do we change that? We can do one or more of three things. We can engage, we can educate, and we can empower. So how do we engage? We can engage with constituents that we serve, other community partners, governmental agencies, and advisory groups. So when we talk about constituencies, we're talking about the community we serve already through all of the transformative programs that we put on through the Lynx Incorporated. The underserved, students, youth, students K through 12, but also those that are matriculating in college, especially at those pursuing or considering the pursuit of a STEM field. We also, when we think about community partners, that would be those that we can build collaborations with, other advisory groups, as Dr. Queen just mentioned. Also, we could leverage services or products from these organizations to help our programs be more successful. In addition to that, we can advise. We can serve on advisory panels for the community, but we can also encourage the community members that we serve to serve on those advisory panels so that their voice is heard. We can engage with HBCUs to encourage them to modify their curriculums, to add these training courses. Many of us serve on boards of HBCUs. This is where we can make a difference. That is our superpower. So now let's talk about educate. When we think about education as we do within the Lynx Incorporated, we provide STEM training models. We have given the Eastern Area STEM Initiative, as well as the National STEM Ready Committee, we have given a plethora of training modules that chapters can use to train youth and make them aware of different STEM careers. We can actually do this for the renewable energies area. So our partner, TERRA, is going to provide us with modules. We're going to get a module each that we can use for awareness in the for middle school, for high school, and also for elementary school age kids. So we'll be able to roll these modules out to train our students. We also can train families about initiatives that we are aware of, as well as individuals considering the additional training. You heard Jose talk about it's not just those pursuing the professional entities, but there is training for technicians that is available, and we can connect the community with these training opportunities. Want to make them available, make them aware of these available resources. And finally, let's talk about empowerment. How can we empower our community? We can do that through advocacy. We can use our legislative affairs portion of our groups to advocate for changes that positively impact our community. We can also raise awareness. We can, as we participate in county fairs or in forums, we can raise the awareness of this imperative of our participation in the new economy. And finally, we can act through philanthropy. We can provide scholarships for students that are pursuing the various careers in renewable energies. We can also provide mentoring to those in college and those in high schools considering the renewable energy field. And then finally, we can continue to make donations to our HBCUs with a special emphasis on those that support the renewable energy field. So again, I close with, we can engage, we can educate, and we can empower those that we serve through the organizations and our current framework that we have within the Lynx Incorporated and other grassroots organizations. And with that in mind, I'm going to turn the floor over to Nicole Carrington, where she's going to talk about the involvement of industry and other groups.
Thank you so much, Stacy. You know, I have to say, I appreciate your emphasis on empowerment. The industry, the renewable energy industry, has an opportunity to reverse the effects of bias here in America as well as globally. In terms of corporate activism, it is so crucial for private businesses to engage in strategic partnerships with HBCUs and other universities. You know, doesn't necessarily have to be HBCUs, but more importantly, their surrounding communities, because we need to develop and retain Black men and women in the renewable energy industry. I want to touch on very lightly what equal opportunity and diversity and inclusion means at the corporate level. D&I is very multifaceted. Very quickly, it starts off with strong and consistent executive support from the policy level, program implementation, as well as accountability. D&I encompasses career development and retention, recruiting efforts, but more importantly, the development of developing a pipeline of qualified students at the entry and experience level. And I like how I'm not too sure who said it, green skills. That is so very important. So what are some of the challenges that the industry is facing right now? So when we're talking about developing a pipeline of qualified talent, we need to understand that core skills are needed for students to be able to compete for entry-level positions as well as seasoned or skilled professions. And it's not just engineering, it's not just technology. Renewable energy needs support in IT, cybersecurity, logistics, business, legal and regulatory, supply chain, procurement, and manufacturing. So here at First Solar, we are actively and strategically looking to partner with HBCUs to bridge that gap. We understand that at this very moment, we may not be able to refine and develop that pipeline now, but that's okay. It's a step towards investing in the future of our Black men and women in the future. And it doesn't start necessarily at the university stage. We should be introducing these programs in elementary school, middle school, and beyond, and also taking efforts or making steps, if you will, to educate the community, the consumer, on the benefit of renewable energy itself as an option in lieu of fossil energy. So how can HBCUs work directly with industries? Number one, I would suggest identifying your labor trends, remembering that REI consists of generation, transmission and distribution, and now storage. All of those areas have very specific and unique niches that are needed in order for our students to become qualified to enter the workforce. We should be analyzing the skill sets required for these various positions. And again, collaboration. HBCUs private industries, and groups such as TERRA should be strategically working together to develop vocational and academic programs to deliver to the students, to position the student to be available, to be qualified when the position is available, not as a forethought. HBCUs have a unique opportunity to get engaged with the community, with corporate businesses, and also with the government to build programs to create renewable energy programs that are based upon these trends. Dr. Powell, what are your thoughts concerning collaborations among HBCUs and other corporate partners?
According to the U.S. Department of Education, there are 107 HBCUs in the country. Now, this represents 327,000 students nationwide. HBCUs can and should play a central leadership role in the development of a sustainable, renewable energies workforce and industry for the nation and the international community at large. HBCU faculties trained in renewable energies technology can develop the needed curriculum for associate, undergraduate, and graduate courses required to prepare the renewable energies industry professional field leadership from the HBCU campuses. The nation needs HBCUs now more than ever. By early 2015, the underemployment rate for recent college graduates had reached 44%. For African-American college graduates, that rate was even higher at 56%. At the same time, the unemployment rate for African-American college graduates between ages 22 and 27 is roughly 12.4%, more than twice the rate of their white counterparts. Given their proven track record of influencing the academic success of African Americans, now more than ever, greater investment is needed in HBCUs, and HBCUs can make a critical difference. HBCUs have the experience and the expertise to develop ongoing renewable energy industry certification programs for the students, graduates, and others in the community who seek professional development. Due to the fact that HBCUs serve a population that has been impacted negatively by the effects of historic environmental injustice, HBCUs are uniquely positioned to play a prominent leadership role in equipping its faculties and graduates with the skills and expertise required to prevent the occurrence of any future environmental inequities imposed on any population, community, or nation. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa to talk about early childhood education.
Thank you. So after hearing all this, where do we begin? You know, it's never too early to begin. And one of the things with my experience working with young children for over 30 years, I have children that have gone in and have doctors who've come back to me, and a lot of children who have gone through my school and have come back and have overwhelmingly beat the statistics for being in the technical field. And I know it's because we introduced it early on. So when I first started the school, the big thing was science, and we did hands-on science. Then that evolved, and then there was STEM. So we focused on the science, technology, engineering, and math. And then we went into their STEAM. Now the arts were added to this. And so one of the big lessons that takeaways I want you to know is it's never too early. And as we go into really introducing our children into that science area, we need to add this renewable energy. It's something that the children love, the earth that they live in. It's something that's very easy to plant those seeds with them. I mean, when you think about solar, we're talking about the sun. When you think about wind, they know what the wind is and love it blowing in their face. When you think of hydro, it's the water. You know, geo is the earth. So when you're just introducing those things early on, you're planting seeds that are going to last the children a lifetime. We know at the early age that they are in a sensitive period of language. They're like sponges. They just soak everything up. And we know that a lot of their learning, the base of their learning comes in those early years, and things that they learn later, they go back to that base learning. So if we give them the language, we give them the vocabulary. A lot of children who get in trouble in school are getting in trouble because they're exploring, learning about the world around them. So if we just take that energy and just really focus it into exploration of an area that they're already curious about, it's just going to be so invaluable in planting those seeds in young children early on that will last them a lifetime. An example of this is with young children, you think of foreign languages, how quickly they pick up on foreign languages at an early age. Also, coming through the pandemic, I remember when we started, we had even children as young as 2 coming into our program, and we were wondering how in the world are they going to wear these masks? Well, they became our superheroes. We learned from them, really. And children coming out of the womb, they are learning. If you think about the computers, I was thinking of my grandson who was on, I had a telephone in front of him, and my mom was disciplining him about something, and he didn't like it. He's 2 years old. He took that telephone and just swiped it away. So don't underestimate how much these little children can learn. And when I see young people coming into the program, I can look at them and see the adults that they're becoming. And I've done this long enough. When they come back to me, I look at them and I can see those seeds that were planted early on and how they have just blossomed and just the impact. So I just really want to emphasize, you know, that we really place an emphasis and we expose our young children to this. And I will tell you that, you know, throughout the shifts of education, the priorities have changed. You know, if you think about it, penmanship is no longer taught in the classroom. You know, at my school, one of our things that our mottos is an international program in an ever-changing world. The reality is that our world is constantly changing. We need to make sure that our community, and we know that we always have to work harder just to stay at the table. So we need to make sure that our community is ahead of this curve because the shift is happening now. So that's the reality. One of the things that I'm excited about with TERRA is that on Tuesday, April the 26th, we are going to release 2 educational modules to the Lynx. So I'm really excited about that. Be ready for it, and there's more to come. I'm going to turn it back over to Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And I'm going to turn it back over to Stacy, but I do want to, I hope that everyone has gotten a taste of the different perspectives that feed into a sampling of the different perspectives that feed into the renewable energies industry. And that your takeaway is that there's so much that we can all do. It's not just having the technological background. We've got to develop the lawyers. We've got to develop the entrepreneurs. We've got to develop the executive leadership. We've got to develop the business owners, and as well as the people who have that technical background. We're talking the marketing in this industry. So when we as we prepare our children to go off to college, this really has to be one of the options. We tend to still want our children to be doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs. But at this crossroad that we are at now, we've got to start thinking about the renewable energies industry and ensuring that our children have that STEM background and understand all of the possibilities that they have here so that they and parents can make informed decisions about what this industry is, what their children can learn from it, as well as what the future holds for not just your child, but all of our children. With that, I will turn it back over to Stacy, and I believe that you have another question.
I do. We are very honored to have our National STEM Ready co-chair, Mamie Parker, and she works with us in our partnership with the National Wildlife Federation. So she's going to talk just a second about preserving the environment and bring greetings from our National STEM Ready Committee.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity, and to Madam Area Director, and as well as the various Madam Chairs that are here and our special guests. It is my pleasure and my heart is warm as I look on this panel and see all these great comments that have come from many of you all. Today marks the anniversary of the death of my mother. She was an avid angler and an outdoor woman. She died 2 weeks before I graduated. And it was in her honor that I decided to study fish and wildlife and later become head of fisheries in this country. But what I know is, starting out as a young girl, there was no one that looked like me or really I could look up to in this field. And so now when I hear us talk about green STEM, or I talk about wild STEM, it's just exciting to hear this conversation, to hear where it's headed, and to think about where we can go. And I know for a fact, Lynx sisters out there are people, as you've heard, in various organizations that are ready to work with us. They realize our superpower, as you've said, Lynx, Stacy, and others. And we show out wherever we go, and we show up wherever we go. And so I'm just so excited about this opportunity. I want to say thank you all for celebrating Earth Day or Earth Week here. It's important for us to think about that. And all that I've heard tonight leads me to believe that we're going to be okay, because we're going to find ways, and I know we will, to educate our young ones, as well as our members, as well as our community. So I'm so happy to be here. I'm so proud of this partnership that you're about to establish, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for those comments, and thank you for your attendance and supporting of our Green Table Talk tonight. And so before we start up our Q&A sessions, we want to invite you to reach out to Sandy Brent if you have questions about TERRA's HBCU initiative. She can discuss that with you offline, but tonight we're going to handle any questions you have for the panelists. It's 8:40, and so we can spend about 10 minutes. And Sandy, I will allow you to decide who takes which question, okay? Okay, you're on mute, Sandy.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so Monica, Lewis will help us with any questions that we are receiving. I don't know if you can see them, Monica, if you're on the panel side. Link Janine, I don't know how we can get those questions read to us.
They are in the Q&A box. You should have access to see that.
Okay.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Monica Freeman Lewis, and I'm a member of the Eastern Area STEM Initiative Committee. And I will say, you know, I have a degree in physical science. I taught earth science, but I tell you what, tonight, I was like a sponge. I learned so much. There was so much value in all of the different perspectives and ideas that I'm walking away just thinking about, you know, what can I do, you know, to make a difference? Because it's truly going to take all of us. You know, Mother Earth is speaking, and I, for one, am listening. So I would just like to thank each of the panelists for the stories that they brought to the table this evening and educating me so that I could go out and do the same. So I do have access to the Q&A chat. And while we're waiting for attendees to fill it with questions, I have a couple of questions, if that's all right, to just kind of get us started. And Sandy, if you could just send them to the appropriate panelists, that would be great. So one of the questions that I have is that we're all in this together. I did learn here that we are, as Black people, disproportionately impacted by climate change, changes in, you know, the land and the environment. And so it's really a win-win opportunity for us to not only become more educated about how to take care of the earth and our community, but also to become economically empowered. And I think that, you know, having the modules ready to go next week is absolutely wonderful because education is the first step. I was wondering, have you considered doing maybe some sort of summer programming where you get the kids out in the great outdoors, where they're touching the oil and really connecting with earth in kind of a hands-on way so that they not only get the education, but are, you know, connected in a meaningful way that will challenge them to want to learn more and do more because of that hands-on experience.
Well, we actually have quite a few projects in our pipeline, but that actually has come up. And what we're looking to do with something like that is partner with a business. There are some corporations out here, such as First Solar and other businesses that size, that actually are interested in sponsoring such a thing. So that is something that we are considering, and that is where TERRA would facilitate that relationship with the business to bring them in to sponsor that, and really and partner with a grassroots organization to help to bring that to fruition. So yes, we have thought about that, and that is in our pipeline to do. And the best way to do that is bringing that business together with the nonprofit. So again, therein lies our opportunity to work together.
Thank you, Sandy. So there are several questions that have popped up. The first is, can we put Sandy's information in the chat regarding TERRA's HBCU initiative?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then the second question is from Nina Rivera. What do you believe is the next form of renewable energy? And thank you for a wonderful program.
Jose, would you like to field that one? You're muted.
Yes, I definitely would. In terms of the next form of renewable energy, I think one of the best ways to look at it is what's going to be the forms of renewable energy that are going to start becoming more popular, going to catch on in different parts of the country is, I think, the best way to look at it. Right now, Europe has been going much higher for their wind resources, really for about the past 10, 15 years. And it's only now in this country that we're beginning to come around to understand that we have a much better, much more consistent wind resource at higher altitudes. So you're going to see more proliferation of wind along with many of the offshore wind projects, including one here just offshore in Maryland that is being planned and is being developed. As more states undergo what is called deregulation, which is really more of a vertical unbundling of the utilities, there are going to be states where solar is going to catch on much more. As Pam had pointed out, solar, we have a very large footprint in Maryland. One of the reasons why we have that is because of our so-called deregulated environment for the electric utilities, which has made solar much more possible. That's what you'll see in those areas. Hydro with run-of-river may begin to catch on a lot more now since they've eliminated the old dams and we need the electricity. So that's really the way to look at it. Thanks.
Can I jump in there actually?
Sure.
Just because real quick, because I know we have other questions as well. The other thing I also emphasize to people is to keep in mind how the dynamic nature of international economics is such that not everything that evolves and comes about is a good thing. So if we think about what Bitcoin does or cryptocurrency does to the environment, and yet that's not going to go away. So there's this aspect of trying to make things work better than they do at the moment, making things that are bad maybe a little more tenable and a little less damaging to the environment could end up being in and of itself new technologies and new renewable energies. It's sometimes making what already exists, as Jose was mentioning, making it more accessible, more usable, more friendly to society in the simple sense of look how great we've come with electric cars, but most people still think I can't get one because I don't have enough charging places out and about, so I can't really utilize it except near my house. A new form of renewable energy might be making the batteries of that even just more amenable. So there's a lot of ways to go.
Thank you. I'll take or share the next question from Anita Clark. And she says, as you know, there is an international component to LinkedIn. So does TERRA support initiatives outside of the US?
Well, that we need more information. That is something that we discuss as a team. And Jose, I'll let you also answer that one because there are nuances there. So it depends on what it is, where it is, and a whole lot of things, even political environments. So Jose, you want to kind of explain that international aspect of it?
There are many opportunities available internationally for capacity building, particularly in the skill sets. I know from a project that I've spent the past couple of years working on in Sierra Leone for a feasibility study, we ended up building a combined cycle. It's going to be built a combined cycle power plant in Freetown. And one of the questions asked is, why didn't you look at solar? Because Sierra Leone is very good for it. The problem is it's very expensive there, not so much to install it, but for the maintenance. The country does not really yet have the training and the educational capacity to really provide the amount of technicians needed to maintain these panels. Even though there's a lot available regionally, especially in Nigeria, a lot of people in Nigeria, they expect to be paid a lot more to leave, a good job in their country just to go over next door to a country that's not theirs. So that is capacity building where you can expand education and familiarity with these technologies is vital. And Matt already has got his hand raised there. He knows to expand on this. Matt?
Dr. Evans had his hand up first. So.
Please, Dr. Evans.
I just hit the button by mistake, so no, go ahead.
Then just real quick to, again, support what Jose is mentioning, one of the big myths actually of American society is our natural social and economic mobility. Most studies actually show in real terms that most Americans are born, live, and die within a 50-mile radius of one single place. So we're not nearly as mobile and as open to even sort of cross-national mobility, let alone international mobility. And this field
is one. I think it would be one of the amazing unique accomplishments for TERRA and just the field and the discipline in general is if we're raising a new group of students that are actually more open to the opportunities that exist beyond the borders of the United States. Because when it comes to renewable energies and cybersecurity in particular, honestly, some of the greatest innovation is probably going to happen outside of the United States and not within it. And then it will filter back to America.
If I could add to that, if we use the same model that we use for the National Wildlife Federation with this partnership, those modules that you're talking about for the preschool, elementary, and college students, we've used that model at one of our Jamaica schools where we have done programs there. The James River Valley chapter, they did it all virtual, and in a virtual environment that offers an opportunity for us to also share some of those educational resources to those various schools. If you would pick one or choose one in another country or even in Jamaica, that would be an opportunity there as a start to share and let them see role models. That's what they're doing too, is they say to see us is to know that they can be us. So see more Black and brown people like myself as a marine biologist. So they don't just have to see NGOs and expats that are white people, that they can actually see people that look like them in other parts of the world.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A. There is a comment. I don't know if you can see the comments, Sandy, but we have one from your older brother in Philadelphia. You did see it. Okay. All right. Okay. I want to make sure your older brother was recognized. Thank you very much for responding to the questions. I'm going to turn it back over to our chair, Stacey Mangrum.
Okay, we have a few comments, one is a question. We'll handle this one before we close out. What is being done to turn trash into renewable energy?
Well, that's a lot. We know about biomass. That's probably the big picture, but there's recycling. I'm not sure if I probably need to narrow that question down a little bit. If the questioner can type in, do you mean in terms, what is biomass? Is that what you're asking? Again, I'm going to ask Jose to tell us a little bit about biomass. Maybe that's what she's getting to, so that we can share that form of renewable energy with everyone.
Thanks again. Municipal solid waste as an energy source has actually been used for a while. In fact, they have in Lorton, at least it was operating 10, 15 years ago when I toured the plant, a facility to burn and convert municipal solid waste. One thing that's interesting is there are parts of the environmental activist community has really in the same past 10, 15 years has become less in love with burning municipal solid waste for a couple of reasons. One, you have to be very careful. You separate all sorts of other things out of your waste stream, because if you're burning plastics, that is an actual environmental hazard in that smoke and those emissions that can hurt people. The other thing is that it is releasing, even though since it's waste and it's a very quick recycling, it's very carbon neutral in the sense that, yes, it'll become CO2, but that's something that can be reabsorbed back into the cycle. That's what they call carbon neutral as part of the carbon cycle. There's people, they just don't like burning stuff for fuel. And that is really what it comes down to it. Though there's other technologies today that can gasify it and can actually turn a lot of that into hydrogen and take the carbon out as a solid waste. Those are commercially available technologies, and I know they are because I've worked with them. Thank you.
I think I'd like to add to that topic, because that comes up a lot from the policy standpoint of what do we do with biomass. We spend a lot of time, at least in the Maryland General Assembly, talking about should we include that as part of our renewable energy portfolio? Is it really truly clean energy? And so what we do with biomass of trash burning will probably differ from areas because of the policy and advocates, in that area and what they think is important. But one of the issues with that is currently when we talk about neighborhoods of color, most of our, places where we burn trash are in areas where they're poor neighborhoods. And so it has a negative connotation, it has a negative stigma to continue that process. And so that's some of the things we have to look at when we talk about policy that is being very equitable across the different economic backgrounds and social economic status. So that's can be a very touchy subject depending on what area you live in.
So we have one question from Gloria Hill James. I believe she's from the Greater Bronx, New York chapter. She says, this was a great presentation. Thanks so much for bringing this initiative to the Lynx Incorporated. Is there a toolkit immediately available for high school students to begin working with? We are working with TERRA, and as announced earlier, we will be producing the toolkit, which will have one module for elementary school, one module for high school, and one module for middle school. And that will be available for the programming for the next school year. And we will release that next week. And so we also have a comment from Anita Clark. I'm not sure what chapter you're in, Anita, so if you could write that. She says her chapter has established a library in Liberia. Right now, we are arranging a program to expose members to environmental issues. So that's great. That is wonderful, and that's what we want to see. Before we close out, Madam Director, would you like to have any closing remarks?
I just want to say thank you to our panel of experts. Thank you to our STEM committee for this informative and engaging presentation. I listened throughout and I learned so much about something that's really new to me. And so I was looking at the chat and the feedback and the comments and the questions, and I just can't thank you all enough for bringing this concept to us here in the Eastern area, for sharing with us so that we can then in part share this within our communities and with the students that we work with on a day-to-day basis. So it's been outstanding. And I thank you all for taking your time to share with us this evening. Great program.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
And to echo her words, we are so appreciative of the TERRA esteemed list of panelists. We are so excited to have you here. And so we look forward to engaging in further partnership, but we also welcome and thank all of you who joined from the Eastern area. We're so excited to have you. We will post this to the Eastern area portal. And so we look forward to meeting and seeing you in the fall as we continue our Green Table Talks on STEM. Thank you and good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.